The Cyber Resilience Act, or CRA, aims to enhance cybersecurity across the EU by setting strict standards for digital products and software. While it could benefit consumers indirectly, its main focus is to protect the broader digital ecosystem by making sure the manufacturers and developers prioritize security. We spoke with President and CEO of KDAB, Kalle Dahlheimer, to get his thoughts on the topic. What is the scope of the CRA?
Some commentators have called the CRA a Consumer Protection Act. I don't think that's quite true. The example that is often given is that a malicious actor could take over, for example, your home security system and watch you in your own home. While that's obviously undesirable, that's still something that would be possible, because here we are talking about intentionally leaving a backdoor in the software so that some, for example, foreign actors could access the camera. But the CRA is really about acts of neglect, unintentionally leaving a backdoor that then somebody discovers. So it's not really about consumer protection in the first place. However, it is, of course, meant to protect critical infrastructure like the power grid, other utilities like water, hospitals. We've seen a couple of cases in some countries, in the UK, for example, where hospital management systems had to be shut down because they were affected by foreign hackers. And all of this obviously will affect consumers immensely if the power grid goes down, or your water supply goes down, or hospitals can't operate. So in the end, obviously, it will protect the consumer, but not by way of their small home security devices being secure against intentional interception, but against unintentional interception by way of neglect of shoddily written software that leaves unintentional backdoors. It's certainly a protection for consumers.
And how could the CRA accomplish that?
I've seen some commentary that the CRA is going to be just another toothless act of legislation that nobody cares about. And of course, whether that's true or not, nobody can say at this point. That remains to be seen. But on the other hand, that's what people said about the general data protection regulations initially as well. And companies violating those have been slapped with heavy fines by national regulators in many European countries. So chances are that the same will happen with the CRA, so that actually breaching the CRA and shipping electronics with shoddy software with unintentional backdoors will lead to noticeable fines for the manufacturer or the importer. There's an interesting aspect here, or several interesting aspects really. First of all, it's perfectly conceivable that consumer protection organizations will sue vendors for breaches of the CRA because they have shipped devices to consumers that they have installed in their own homes that fail to provide the resilience against interception that they need to, as stipulated by the CRA, and that consumers might be entitled to damages or maybe just return the devices and get refunds in this case. Something else to think about for consumers themselves. Currently, the idea is that manufacturers in the European Union or importers of goods into the European Union will be liable. And if you order consumer electronics from some shady website outside the European Union, I won't name any names now, you all know which ones they are, then you would be the importer into the European Union. And if your home Wi-Fi access point that you imported into the European Union gets taken over by a botnet that intercepts or disturbs your local power grid, then you might actually be liable. I think consumers should be a lot more careful about where they get their home electronics from in the future. If you buy it from anywhere within the European Union, then it's the importer's or the manufacturer's liability and not yours. I am not qualified to give legal advice. If you need legal advice, ask a proper lawyer. But these are some of the things that we at KDAB are considering currently.
Why do we need the CRA?
You could ask yourselves why the CRA is necessary in the European Union, given that other developed economies like the US or Japan or the UK can do without. First of all, I don't think they can do without. Their chances are they will introduce similar legislation. The same happened with GDPR. Europe were the forerunners, and then some American states like California, for example, and also in particular Japan legislated almost a copy of the GDPR. So that example has been taken as the example of the GDPR has been taken as a role model in several other nations or states, and the same might happen with the CRA. It's a matter of fact that Europe is under attack by foreign actors, software attacks. There's hardly a day, if you follow the media, where you can't read about some interception in critical infrastructure, like the hospital management systems previously mentioned, or some local authority having to shut down their administration for weeks in order to clean their computers from intrusions. So there's definitely a need in Europe, and I don't really have the insight whether the Japanese or the Americans have a similar need. I would guess they do. For the British, I know, because they have had similar intrusions that have led to big problems. So for Europe, it's independent of what anybody else does. It's a question of self-defense for us. But then again, we think we might also be an example and a forerunner for other nations.